2021 NFL mock draft reaction. It is mock draft season. I'm not putting out my my mock draft just yet. I want to get some user input. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be running through the NFL mock draft that Matt Miller from Bleacher Report released today, a post NFL trade deadline. So it's active as of this week. What I want you to do out there, NFL fans, is if you disagree or agree with the pick, whatever it is, if you don't like what I'm putting out there or what Matt Miller's putting out there for your team, comment below. Let me know. Educate me, because I want to have the best YouTube community NFL mock draft this year. So with no further ado, I'm just going to react to some of these picks, whether I agree or disagree, and we'll just move on from there. So number one, the New York Jets. Do I think they're going to take Trevor Lawrence? I think they have to. I think Gase will be fired. It would be a shocker to everybody, absolute shocker to everybody, if Gase is retained. They're going to start with a new coach. We'll see who it is, if it's somebody like Bieniemy or somebody else. But what do you do with Sam Darnold at that point? Do you trade him? Do you do what the San Diego Chargers did way back in the day with Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers? I don't know. I would tend to trade him and just kind of roll with Trevor Lawrence. But there's something to be said about letting Lawrence, just kind of ease into NFL action. Though, again, this day and age, I just roll with Trevor Lawrence and get moving. The New York Giants taking an offensive tackle, that makes a lot of sense to me. But, there are a lot of, projected first-round quarterbacks. Is Daniel Jones the guy, Giants? You let me know. What do you think? I have questions. I liked him a lot more last year. But, quarterback sophomore slump, no offseason, new offensive system. There's a lot stacked up against Daniel Jones. Giants fans, comment below. Let me know. Jacksonville quarterback in this position. Honestly, if I'm Jacksonville, I trade back. Gardner Minshew, Jacksonville, was a great story last year. A lot of people, are kind of down on him. Again, sophomore slump, lack of offseason, new offense, same with Daniel Jones. Do you like Gardner Minshew enough to roll with him moving forward? Jacksonville fans, comment below. Miami from Houston, a top 5 pick. Miami's playing great football defensively. What do they add? A wide receiver to pair with Tua. Now, here's the thing. Part of this, Tagovailoa moving on to him, Miami has a couple of draft picks. They have a cache of picks. Do they move up and try to trade up for somebody like a Trevor Lawrence? Do they move on with another quarterback? They have to see what they have moving into this quarterback-rich draft next year. Although I got to tell everybody, the way college football systems have moved to pro-style systems, there is always going to be a quarterback-heavy draft, so I think you'd be fine with that. But anyway, Miami taking a wide receiver, get your team some talent, although I wouldn't mind them drafting some offensive line, though interior offensive linemen can come later in the draft. Dallas, a cornerback. They need to help their defense. I have no problem with that. Atlanta, edge rusher. They've been trying to find an edge rusher for a decade. This all comes down to, do they hit the reset button? Does Raheem Morris get the job? Does he do well enough to end the season to get that job and be the full-time head coach? I don't know about that. I do tend to think Atlanta will go on a little bit of a run. I think their draft pick's actually going to be lower when all is said and done, but we'll see. Washington, quarterback. I don't know, man. You got Del Rio, you got Rivera. I think they're going to keep loading up on that defense. I don't argue with the pick at all, but Washington fans, let me know. What do you think? Would you like a quarterback here? To me, I think they keep loading up on defense and they try to go with a quarterback later. And, maybe Turner still likes Kyle Allen. Maybe he does well enough to end the year. I mean, they're certainly playing better now as of the time of this recording anyway. The Chargers, a cornerback. Now, here's where I think the Chargers, they should invest in Herbert. He's the answer. He's the guy. Give him some talent, just like they project Miami to give him. The Chargers, I know their identity. I know Lynn likes a strong defense. I know they probably have holes to fill. But I really want to see the Chargers add some pieces offensively, add to that team and really take them from good offensively to elite. The New England Patriots, do they take the quarterback here? I understand the projection. I don't think that's what happens. New England, they'll probably trade back about 7 times and acquire picks. We'll see. I think New England's going to try to get their quarterback later. But again, we'll see how it shakes out. Patriots fans, would you be happy with the quarterback here? And do you think that the nature of this team and how it's run, do you think they would do that? Number 10, the Minnesota Vikings. My favorite name in the draft so far is Leatherwood, for crying out loud. Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle, meat and potatoes guy. I never have a problem with a team taking an offensive tackle in the first round. Number 11, Cincinnati Bengals. Again, I don't have any problem with an offensive tackle. Carolina adding some pieces. I would like them maybe to add some linebackers, but you also have to figure out who's there. Detroit does take a linebacker. You're talking about coaching staffs. I'd be surprised if Patricia is retained, so we'll see. Then what do you do with this offense? Do you blow it up? Do you try to move Stafford? Do you try to trade him maybe to a team that needs a quarterback like a Chicago, even though it's in the division. I don't know. We'll see. But again, I think there's going to be a regime switch there. Detroit fans, let me know if you agree. Denver, an offensive tackle. I'm fine with that. And they'll get Cortland Sutton back next year. That offense, they have weapons everywhere and the skill players. So, and the defense is actually pretty strong too. They could use some meat and potatoes guys on the offensive line. San Francisco, a quarterback. I don't see that happening. I don't. Garoppolo, he's either been injured or have had other players, his skilled players, injured all year. I don't think San Francisco gives up on the quarterback. I don't think they use that pick there. They probably just add more to the defensive line because for crying out loud, they're always injured. Miami, their actual pick here, an edge rusher. I have no problem with that. But again, if you want to pick an offensive lineman or maybe even another weapon for Tua, I'm good with that as well. Miami. Las Vegas, let's see. The defensive lineman, I can't go wrong there. I also wouldn't mind the Raiders adding some more into their secondary. But defensive line, linebackers, add pieces to the defense unless there's like a really big, a big star wide receiver out there. I know they've added some talent. I love Ruggs. I love what they're doing, but I don't mind another weapon on the outside for this Raiders team. They could use it because, again, they're always injured at wide receiver, it seems. Chicago, a quarterback. I have no problem with Chicago taking a quarterback, though. I would say Chicago, if the Jets end up taking Lawrence, I would prefer to see Chicago make the move and trade, a couple of lower picks for Sam Darnold. I wouldn't trade a first-rounder for him personally, but Chicago, definitely quarterback upgrade is on the menu. Philadelphia, another wide receiver. I don't argue it, but I think they'll probably move in another direction. Cleveland, another wide receiver. I think that's a good bet, especially, the Browns from, reports, they can't waive Odell Beckham due to some of the contractual stuff. However, what they could do is trade him, I think, right after the league year or something like that. Browns fans, you know more than I do. I just read the article this week. So if the Browns indeed do get rid of Odell Beckham, they can do that. But I don't think adding another wide receiver to the depth chart is a bad idea either. And again, it depends on who's available. Browns fans, who would you like to see? Do you have any holes on defense you would like to see plugged in? Let me know. Comment below. Jacksonville, their pick from the Los Angeles Rams via the Jalen Ramsey trade, taking an offensive tackle. Again, I'm never fault a team for taking an offensive tackle or defensive lineman in the first round. It's just always a good idea. You win with the lines, you win in the trenches, no matter what style of play you have. Now, the number 22 pick, I think the Indianapolis Colts pick is going to be a little bit higher, but we'll see. Edge rusher adding to that amazing defense. I don't have any problem with that. People are talking probably about wide receiver, but remember, they have Pittman Jr., they have Paris Campbell from before, and they were actually playing okay before they both got hurt. Pittman Jr., we'll see. He's back active. We'll see how he goes towards the end of the year. T.Y. Hilton's aging, so if you added a wide receiver, I guess I wouldn't begrudge that. But Indianapolis, I say add pieces to this defensive line. This is a team that does make sense for me to grab a quarterback in the first round because they're so strong on the offensive line. They're so strong defensively, and I think their wide receivers are actually underrated just because they've been injured for so long. So I would say here is a decent, if a quarterback that Frank Reich likes slips to the Colts here, I have no problem with that. Arizona, an offensive tackle, keep doing it. I love what the Cardinals are doing. If they want to add another playmaker on the defensive side of the ball, this offense is going to be so good, so maybe another guy on the edge, I wouldn't mind that as well. Baltimore, you can always expect them to draft well. Baltimore needs playmakers downfield, but adding to the defense, the best offense is a good defense, as people used to say anyway. So for me, for Baltimore, I think downfield playmaking is a big deal, but that really has more to do with Lamar Jackson's passing development than anything else. Adding more pieces on the defense, that's always a good idea for Baltimore, and that's always what they do anyway, and I don't have any problem with that. Green Bay, projected to take a wide receiver, finally. We'll see. I would have preferred Green Bay to make a move before the trade deadline for somebody like a Will Fuller, but it always depends on draft pick price. Green Bay needs a downfield playmaking threat. When they do that, it just opens up Devontae Adams and the running game even more. That wide receiver, I think they whiffed last season. Devin Funchess will be back, I think. I don't know if that was a one-year deal or not. Actually, Packers fans, comment below. Let me know. The Packers, they got to add some pieces, whether it's free agency or in the draft. They got to add another wide receiver. I like, Lazard when he comes back from injury. Don't get me wrong, but another impact guy on the other side of the field, first of all, is just good for long-term development, but also it's good for short-term development for Devontae Adams. I mean, it's just, if teams can stop triple covering Devontae Adams, the Packers will be a lot better. The New Orleans Saints at 27, a wide receiver, given what we saw this year, and given some of the stuff that's going on off the field with Michael Thomas and some frustrations there and all that, adding a wide receiver is probably a good idea. New Orleans can also add some pieces in the defense and the secondary. They can add they're such a good team that they don't need a lot, so they can add anybody and they'll be legitimate. So I don't mind if the Saints pick a wide receiver if they like one. I don't mind if they don't. Buffalo. Let's see here. A linebacker. That's a good. I think Buffalo's defense is actually hurting. I like the skill players that Buffalo has offensively, so I'm good with this pick. Go back to the defensive side of the ball. Tampa Bay, an edge rusher. Again, they're pretty loaded offensively. Maybe an offensive lineman, maybe. But I would actually Tampa Bay. I mean, they're kind of ready built. Maybe look for the quarterback of the future if they don't think that they already have it. I think Rosen's on that field now, so maybe he is the quarterback of the future. Moving over and padding that defense, which is playing much better, but did have some holes coming into the 2020 season. But again, you're talking about making elite groups even more elite. The Kansas City Chiefs adding a tight end here. Now, this projection would have the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing in their respective championship games. That's how the draft shakes out. Kansas City Chiefs, a tight end. Okay. I guess what do you add to the team? I guess, but I would like more maybe defensive backs. They had some depth issues at cornerback, but again, it depends on who's there. The New York Jets, their pick from Seattle after the Adams trade, a wide receiver for the Jets. Again, we'll see. There's going to be a regime change. I would prefer meat and potatoes, defensive line, offensive line, something like that there. But again, getting Trevor Lawrence, if that is indeed the pick, some weapons, it's a good strategy. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, the projection here is that the Steelers win the Super Bowl. I don't personally agree with that. Comment below if you do or don't. I tend to think the Steelers will lose in the championship game. And Seattle, Seattle is my favorite to be in the Super Bowl, but I think Tampa Bay, I like the bottom four teams in the AFC and NFC championship projections. That's what I'm saying. I just think that Kansas City will beat Pittsburgh. But again, I don't know. There's a lot of football left, and health depends on a lot of this too. But the Pittsburgh Steelers taking a wide receiver, God, come on. I don't see that happening. I know there's talk about Juju Smith-Schuster. They'll let him walk and all that. That's fine. They got Claypool. There aren't a lot of holes here. I would start padding and rebuilding the offensive line. They're getting a little bit older. You could always, if you're Pittsburgh, look to the future and maybe draft a quarterback if you like somebody there. I don't know if I agree with that or disagree with that. And maybe I think they have Dobbs there or someone like that. So maybe they like him. But, Pittsburgh, they're such a strong team. What do you add? Probably another linebacker so that they can dominate the defensive side of the ball for another decade or 2 or 3 decades. So there you go. There's the mock draft courtesy of Bleacher Report and Matt Miller. Again, I didn't do this. I like some of the picks. I dislike some of the picks. I'm sure you are in the same boat. So comment below. I appreciate it. Mock draft season. It's time to look to the future, everyone. Thanks.